It's that time of the week. It's that time of the year. The cash game is here. And I always have to bring in a very special guest for this Friday DFS strategy show. He's my personal cash game quant, one of the best in the biz. I put him on the Mount Rushmore of the cash games. It is none other than Derek Carty from the Blitz. Welcome to Cash Game Week once again, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Cash Game Week is my favorite week of the year.
It's I mean, for you, it's just another week, right? I mean, you're kind of a cash game player year round, right?
I am a cash game player year round, but it's nice when we can pull some of the GPP bros into our little circle of cash game funness.
Well, the thing is, the reason you don't even have to try that hard to pull them in, they're all broke by this time of the year. They've lost all of their money chasing these top heavy prizes, and now they're ready to win 56% of their head to heads. Just start the new year with a nice little ROI.
That's all it's about. Just that little ROI. You just need to grind it out. And for some people, if you've lost all your money all year, well, you only have 1 week to grind it out, but that's still better than nothing.
If you had to, I have to assume, God, the amount of GPP bros who are used to tuning into this channel, that's all they're here for. Maybe they're curious. Maybe they're cash game curious. Do you have any kind of principles, some things that they can hang their hat on? What's the basics they should know as we head into this show?
It sounds obvious, but play the best plays is really what cash games can be boiled down to. Play the best plays and you're going to win. That's how it works. You don't have to worry about leverage. You don't have to worry about ownership too much. And if you are worrying about ownership, it's the opposite direction that you otherwise would. You want to play the plays that are a little bit higher owned, maybe. Yeah, it's a lot simpler than building GPP lineups.
And as far as contest selection, everyone needs to send me a head-to-head, revert Z top. Also, let's use this as the chance to plug your DraftKings username. Where would you like head-to-head sent?
Derek Carty.
Derek Carty. Very simple. None of that Nate Noling bullshit where the name gets lost in the ether. Derek Carty. You see it there on the screen. But yes, as far as distribution of head-to-heads, sending head-to-heads, posting head-to-heads, getting in these double ups, the massive double ups, what would you recommend from a cash game contest selection allocation standpoint?
I'd say ideally you're posting head-to-heads and you're getting them filled by people who are not as sharp as the people who are posting their own head-to-heads. Depending on how much volume you're trying to get down, you might not be able to fill all of your games. So you might need to go in there and either have them autofill or just hand select some head-to-head opponents. Or work in some of the 50-50 or double up type stuff as well.
Okay. There you go. There you go. A lot of people I saw, I'm hesitant to even mention this site, but they're completely phoning it in for week 18. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to pull up this screenshot that was just put in my mentions here, Derek, and I just want you to see how disgusting and how lazy this is. This site, which won't be named, they normally do top plays here, and all it says is don't play cash week 18 for both sites. There's actually no plays there. I won't editorialize quite yet. What do you make of this?
I think that's absurd. I don't know what site we're talking about here, so I'm going to be throwing shots blind here, but don't play cash week 18. Come on. Play cash every single week in, week out, grind it out, increase your sample size. There's plenty of unknown factors in week 18, but there's plenty of things that we do know.
That's right. And I mean, to me, this is the slate for the true grinders, the people who are willing to roll up their sleeves, get to work, understand all of the team level, play level motivations here. I mean, if anything, I would say this is the greatest week to play cash in the entire calendar.
Well, that might be an exaggeration, but it's a good one. It's a good one. The same as any other week is a good one to play cash. They're all good weeks.
Well, this is what we're going to do. I want to first hear a little bit about your process this week for cooking up projections, some of the team level situations that might be particularly tricky. Maybe we can bounce ideas off of each other as two titans of this game format, really sharpen your projections there. And then we can kind of go position by position. And I do I know you understand this, but I kind of have to walk a delicate line of relaying information to my viewers and trying to be a good tout for them while also understanding they're all coming at me. They are trying to beat me in a head-to-head. So I do have to keep some things close to the vest. I trust you understand that.
Oh, I completely understand. You have to, it's a very fine line you have to walk.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, how's this week been going? Obviously, there's going to be lots of news that comes not only today. I assume we're going to get some surprise inactives on Sunday morning. From a bird's eye view, what is this week like for you from a projection standpoint?
Yeah, this week's a little bit tougher from a projection standpoint because you really have to be dialed into which teams have something to play for, what are the coaches saying, which guys are going to play, which guys are going to sit. Are there situations that are murkier? Kind of how do you handle those? There's plenty of injuries that we're still waiting on news from. Like you said, probably some surprise inactives on Sunday. So it's a lot to kind of, process this week.
And what would you say are, we have some teams where we know clear motivation. Denver wins, they lock up the bye, pretty clear. We also have a lot of murky situations as well. Which ones have been the toughest for you so far?
I'd say the Bills right now is a pretty murky one. We don't know. Earlier today, it was looking like Josh Allen was going to sit. They don't have a lot of motivation to play for. Now it looks like they're saying he's good to go. So tough to know with them. The Rams are another one where they don't probably have a whole lot to play for, but McVay said last week that he didn't like the way they looked. He wants them to go out there and kind of sharpen up before the playoffs. So tough to know. Are they going to play the whole game? Are they just going to play part of the game? Those are the two that come to mind right now. I feel like there's one I'm missing.
What do you? The Patriots, I feel like, are kind of tricky too.
Yeah, Patriots are a little tricky.
Yeah, they can, because they can technically get the 1 seed if Denver loses, but Denver's like 11.5-point favorites versus the Chargers, who are, resting all of their stuff. Right. But Vrabel has said the players who are healthy are going to play. But if they're both playing at the same time, does Vrabel start to look at the scoreboard, see, hey, Broncos are up 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to risk Drake May before this playoff run.
Right. So that's the kind of thing where that's another murky situation. Do they start the guys and then pull them out halfway through, depending on what's going on in the other game? It's tough to know.
What about on the side of the teams who have been completely eliminated and yet they still have high-end options? So I feel like the Bengals would be a good one to discuss. The Cowboys would be a good one to discuss. Where's your trust level for these teams that have good players that have scored a lot of fantasy points this year, but their team has nothing specifically to play for?
Generally, I don't worry too much about those types of teams because they've been playing the same way for weeks. They've already been eliminated for a few weeks. This week is no different than week 15, was for them for the most part. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually fine to play guys on those teams unless we have a real reason not to.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, no specific concerns on those guys. What about, I don't know if you've started fiddling with your shell. Is there anything about this week that stands out to you from a macro roster construction standpoint?
The thing that stood out the most to me is that we really don't have many high-end quarterbacks. So even though we have a bunch of value plays at the skill positions, there's not really a quarterback I want to spend up on. So I'm kind of looking at the cheap end of the quarterback pool, which is gross, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at it this week. I don't see that high-end quarterback that we know is going to play, that we know is going to be locked in, that is worth spending any money on. So that's the big macro kind of construction thing that I noticed this week.
Yeah, why don't we just use that as an excuse to dive right in here to the quarterbacks on this slate. You mentioned having some cheap ones here. I've clicked my favorite button in the entire world, which is sorting by fantasy points per dollar. And we do have some cheapies up here at the top. Kenny Pickett, 4,200, Brady Cook, 4,300. Kind of did he use this to make a macro point? Our cash games is simple as just sorting by value and putting those in the lineup, or do we need to be a little careful about the floors of players like Kenny Pickett and Brady Cook?
Yeah, we definitely need to be a little bit careful. I don't know if floor is the word that I care so much about, but um, you do have to spend all your salary. So you can't just play all the high value guys because a lot of times they will be the cheaper guys and you won't wind up having, you'll have money left on the table and you won't be maximizing your actual points. So it's kind of a balancing act between finding those high upside guys or those high point per dollar guys, as well as the high raw points guys that are still pretty good point per dollar plays.
Looks like I had a little sorting misclick there. It's actually Tanner McKee, Clayton Tune, Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers, Trey Lance, Josh Johnson, Riley Leonard. All of these guys are sub 5K and starting. Not to get distracted, do you think it's an indictment of the quarterback developmental pipeline in the league right now that the names I just rattled off are who we have to watch on Sunday?
I'm not going to comment on the status of the league and what quarterbacks we're going to watch.
Because I don't mind it. If you said something untoward.
Oh, you never know. You never know. But honestly, I like it because then we have all these good cheap options that we have to pick from. So we can kind of take our pick between all these bad guys, figure out which one's in the right spot, and hope they can give you 15 or 20 points.
So of these sub 5K guys, basically all before we get to, CJ Stroud here, are any of these in play for your personal shell? Should they be in play for our shells?
Yeah, so they're in play for mine. The guy that I've kind of been toying with right now is, I'm going to butcher his name, but Chris Aladakun for the Chiefs, 4,500. He's got decent weapons to work with. They're a very pass-heavy team. They'll be less pass-heavy with him than they will be with Patrick Mahomes, obviously. But even last week, he only threw the ball, I think, 15 times, but just their total play volume was down. They were still above average in terms of their pass rate over expectation. They were still, this is still a team that has shown, even without Mahomes, they will be on the pass-heavy side of the ledger. He's cheap. He makes other stuff work. He's not the only option, but he's the one that I'm kind of gravitating towards at the moment.
I will say, the initial reaction is like third string guy on the Chiefs here. And yet there's a couple things working in his favor. One, you get that dome boner going, right? When you're thinking about that Las Vegas game.
I forgot to mention it, but I mean, that's just automatic at this point. Yeah, that's
automatic. And I would say, I thought when I was going to look at this team total here, I was going to be like, Carty, relax. They have a 14-point team total, but it's 21. That's a pretty healthy total.
It's reasonable for a bad quarterback. It's a reasonable total.
It's a higher total than Jacoby Brissett has this week.
Yeah. And I've certainly played plenty of Jacoby Brissett in cash this year.
I was going to say Jacoby Brissett, like you know what you guys should put out? You should put out like a Spotify Wrapped style thing of the quarterback you played the most in cash this year. It has to be Jacoby Brissett, right?
He would definitely be up there. Early in the year, I definitely had some Daniel Jones, but Jacoby Brissett probably at the top of that list.
So it sounds like Chris, a lot of cash coming your way. That's what I call him. If you play him, it sounds like he's in play. You mentioned not loving some of the pay up options. I mean, the guy that was kind of in my first look shell when this slate dropped was Trevor Lawrence, 6,400, have to win. He's been on an absolute tear of late. Really good matchup versus Tennessee. Is the concern for you there just that they win this game so quickly that he's not having to play that much in the second half?
That's kind of my concern, or even if he does, that they're not having to throw the ball in the second half. So I like Lawrence. I think he's probably the best play on this slate. Is he worth spending up for? Maybe. I don't know. But if I was going to spend up for someone, it would be for him.
The other two names down here that do find themselves, they're not quite in the points per dollar tier as the sub 5K guys, but CJ Stroud, the Texans need to win, and Caleb Williams, the Bears want to win as well. They're both priced under 6K, versus Indianapolis, not a scary matchup. We saw Brock Purdy light them up a couple of weeks ago. And then Detroit as well has been torched. in the secondary. So thoughts on those guys being in the conversation?
Yeah, they're certainly in the conversation. Stroud in particular, I think is right there. If I was going to spend more than like the 4 to 5K, I probably just wind up going up to Lawrence rather than sitting in the middle there. But if you want to sit in the middle, yeah, I think Stroud is fine. I think Jackson Dart is probably fine. There's a number of viable options this week.
It's crazy because a lot of times we play these cash weeks and, it feels like a prove it week. You just got to show up with the nuts. But what I'm hearing talking to you, Derek, is that there's a lot of different paths, specifically at the quarterback position this week. Could this be a week where we see a ton of different cash builds show up and not as many trains?
I think so. This doesn't feel like a prove it week to me. This feels like the kind of week where there's more ambiguity. There's more plays that are viable as opposed to, okay, you have to play this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, or you're just terrible at cash. It's not really that kind of week.
Yep. I did just sort by my second favorite button here. We are, by the way, checking out the Blitz standard projections. Carty, if people want to get access to these this week or through the rest of the playoffs, let them know how they can do so.
Yeah, you go to rotogrinders.com/the-blitz and it'll prompt you to sign up right there.
There you go. Easy as can be. Is there a week pass if they just want to get hang out for week 18 cash?
Yep, there's a week pass. If you just want to play cash game week this week, then that's an option too.
I would prefer you don't, in that, this is going to be kind of my little personal cheat sheet here, but hey, I don't want to, take money out of my good friend Derek Carty's pocket. So I would like you guys to also subscribe and support my fellow king here. But I was going to say, I sorted by floor. We have Matthew Stafford, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Goff, Stroud. This is obviously approaching it from a slightly different perspective than just pure value relative to salary. How do you feel about some of these options where you feel really good about those points you're going to get no matter what happens?
So again, I think Trevor Lawrence is the guy that I think you feel the most comfortable with. You're getting a good floor from. Stafford and May theoretically have it if they play all game, but I think there's some risk not quite built into the projections just yet where, okay, we don't know what these teams are going to do motivation wise. There's some chance they wind up sitting in the second half. As of right now, I have them projected to play the full game, but I will probably wind up changing that because I don't think we can say that for sure about these two guys.
Yeah. And so if people are going to have their list and you're going to start crossing off names when it comes to cash for you, if there's someone, and this kind of goes back to the Lawrence thing, right? If there's someone where there's a legit question about their playing time and not getting a full 4 quarters, are they coming off your list, or will someone like Lawrence give you a long, hard pause before you rule him out?
It's going to be a case-by-case situation. There's one guy at the receiver position who's probably not going to be like a secret. I'm really tempted to play him, even though we don't know the motivation situation for his team. At quarterback, where you have so many options, I'd rather play someone that I know is going to play the whole game because they're all so close. But where you have someone who, if he does play the whole game, is like so much better than everybody else, then you kind of you have a decision to make.
All right, this is how you know Derek Carty's a pro. That's a tease. We're going to get to that when we get to the wide receiver position here in a little bit. I guess to put a little bit of a bow on the quarterback stuff, if you had to submit your week 18 lineup right now, DraftKings said, hey, everybody, it locks at 1:20 p.m. Eastern on January 2nd. Who is the quarterback in your shell?
I want to say Lawrence, but I don't think it would be. I think it would be a lot of cash.
All right, Chris, a lot of cash. There you heard it here. Love to see it. The other guy down in the cheap range that's kind of interesting to me would be Tanner McKee. as well. He played pretty well last year in week 18, if I recall correctly. Any thoughts about him going against the Commanders?
Yeah, I think McKee's interesting. I think Max Brosmer is interesting. There's a number of guys in this range that that I think are fine given the price that you're going to get them at.
Yeah. Love hearing that. I've been a huge Brosmer supporter throughout the year. A lot of people will talk about his poor counting stats, and I just tell him to look at the scoreboard, Carty, where this dude just continues to get wins.
That's exactly it. And I think there's a good chance for fantasy points this week too for him.
That's what I like to hear. All right. Let's head over to running back. And I will ask you right at the top, kind of an age-old macro question. Is this a 3 running back kind of week in cash?
It can be, but as of right now, I'm leaning more towards just 2 running backs.
Okay. That's good to know. Good to know. We obviously have a lot in flux this week. One thing I'm keeping an eye on, I know Devon Achane is dealing with a little bit of an injury situation right there. He's been kind of a staple of the cash conversation throughout the year. If I sort by points per dollar, let's start here. We're once again not getting any of the super high end guys. We are seeing ETN, Harvey, both those guys in motivated spots and priced fairly there. Do you like these 2 guys?
I like them, but probably not enough, especially if you're going cheap at quarterback. I don't think you have to go that cheap at running back when you have high-end guys that project really, really well. So that at running back, I'm probably looking more at spending money than saving money.
Gotcha. And if you're spending money, then I'm guessing I'm going to sort by floor here, and we're going to see Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Are these the 2 here with this big fat fantasy points projection? The only 2 guys over 20 points that you'd be considering?
I'd be considering Genty too.
Okay.
Especially if we're playing the motivation game, like there's talk of trying to get him to their rushing record and whatever. But Bijan and Gibbs are elite at the top. And I don't think it's easy to play both of them, but I think you're definitely playing at least one.
Okay. Now I'm not going to say a single bad thing about Bijan Robinson. This dude has had an incredible season, high floor, high ceiling. You know what you're getting virtually every week. Jahmyr Gibbs, however, over the past 5 weeks, he's had 3 games under 12 points. As a cash game king searching for floor, that scares me, Carty. So tell me, why should I not be scared to play Jahmyr Gibbs when he's burned us, 3 times over the past, 5 weeks?
Yeah, he's burned us, but he's still Jahmyr Gibbs. And we know that running back performance, running back stats are ultimately skewed a lot by variance. We know that Jahmyr Gibbs is getting a really, really healthy workload these days, especially since Dan Campbell took over the play calling. He's been getting a ton of the work on the ground. He's been getting a lot of work through the air, especially since Laporta went out. And he's 700 less than Bijan. So I think that's the biggest selling point on Gibbs, is that he's cheaper.
Yeah. You're definitely saving money there. I do think it's an interesting, why wouldn't ETN, I mean, I know that they're not in the same caliber of talent profile, but ETN in this matchup, is it the Tootin coming back that kind of lowers that projection for you?
Yeah, Tootin coming back is going to lower it a little bit. That's the big thing, really. And then it's just that you look at ETN's workload compared to Bijan's or Gibbs or Genty or Chase Brown or any of these other guys that we're talking about. And it's not the same. And especially if Tootin is back, if it gets a little bit less, I just don't think he's worthwhile, because if you play him at running back, then you may not be able to allocate your money optimally, basically. Is there going to be enough at wide receiver to spend on, where at receiver, we're going to have plenty of cheap, viable options as well. So it's kind of balancing between the two. Okay, who am I spending up on between the 2 positions? And then where do I need to fill in a cheaper guy? And I think it makes a little more sense to fill in a cheaper guy at wide receiver.
Yeah, because I mean, even looking, by a few of these different metrics, it seems like it's pushing you to paying up more for running back. That said, there are some plays that could potentially open up here. You do see Emmanuel Wilson down here with the Packers resting starters. We're going to have the Eagles resting starters. Maybe there's some interest down there. Do you see any paths where you could potentially be playing, like a sub 5K running back because they're thrust into the starting position? Or are you kind of saying the slate dynamics are just going to not really make that an avenue you want to explore?
It's going to depend on the running back. Like if Devon Achane is out, what does Jalen Wright cost? Like maybe he's 4,200. Like he probably becomes interesting. Maybe it becomes a 3 running back week at that point then. So it's going to depend. It's going to depend on who we get and what the situation is. We don't know for sure that Jacobs is out right now. Wilson definitely would be interesting if he is, but it looks like right now probably not projecting well enough to make it in.
I know you were hesitant to speak on the state of the league. I can tell that you don't necessarily want to, comment on other people's business, but I do, as a journalist and a Cash Game King, I have to ask you, what did you think about Nate Noling playing Jonathan Taylor in cash last week? How far off the board was that? Is he slipping, or was that justified by the blitz?
I think it was justified enough. I didn't go with Jonathan Taylor last week, but he was a viable enough option in my opinion.
Okay. Do you know that I call Nate Noling the I'm the Cash Game King and I call him the Burger King because all he cares about is that Whopper?
I had not heard that before.
Yeah, that's my nickname for him. Genty up here, man. Like, I'm a little scared of Gibbs's floor. I mean, Ashton Genty should terrify you. This guy had like 2.5 good games all season. They are underdogs to the Chris, a lot of cash, Kansas City Chiefs. They only have a 15.5 point team total. Sell me on Ashton Genty being up here near the top of the running back plays, because I ain't seeing it, boss.
It's about volume with Genty. Yeah, he's had some bad weeks, but he's had bad weeks on weeks when the Raiders offense looks just completely broken. Like it doesn't even look like an NFL offense. And no offense can actually be that bad in a true talent sense. You have to expect them to be like a minimal level of bad that they weren't playing at for a little while. If you put them at just like that, they're just regular, really, really bad as opposed to like broken bad. Then you put Genty's volume in that offense, in that just regular bad offense, and he projects really, really well because he's going to get basically all of the work on the ground. He's going to be potentially the number 1 target through the air at this point. Maybe number 2 behind Michael Mayer, but the volume is there. He's got plenty of volume in the pass game, plenty of volume in the running game. The touchdown equity is not high, but it's not like you're paying for it either. He's really cheap compared to these other guys.
Yeah, Ashton Genty here at 6,400, Bijan 87, Jahmyr Gibbs 8K. One other guy, I mean, we talked a little bit about the ETN situation. What about RJ Harvey? Because it's not like there's a Tootin coming back there. They should play this one out the full 4 quarters. He's been the kind of clear lead back. What are the holes you'd poke in having RJ Harvey in the show?
I think, again, it just comes down to roster construction more than anything else. Like, I think I prefer the cheaper receivers to the cheaper running backs here, like Harvey. There was a quote saying that they really like Julian McLaughlin this week, which scares me just a little bit because you really never know what Sean Payton is going to do. So that's really what it comes down to here is just, I think it's roster construction more than anything else. And he's 400 more than Ashton Genty. It's not like he's cheap. Like I'd rather just play Genty.
Yep. I'm going to tell you right now, I will not have Ashton Genty in my cash game. I am not going to war in the most important week of the year with a running back on a team with a 15-point team total with massive systemic risk. In Carty, 2 titans of industry exchanging ideas. I'm telling you, brother, don't play Ashton Genty this week. I'm just telling you.
I hear you. I hear you. And it doesn't feel good to do, but I have played a good amount of Ashton Genty this year, and it has not always worked out, but on the whole, it has. So I'm tempted to go with Ashton Genty again this week.
Man, that is really, really hard to hear. I'm trying to think any other names we should touch on. Like if you were to open up another one of these cheap backs, does a guy like Tyrone Tracy at 5,500 versus Dallas, or maybe like a Dylan Sampson versus Cincinnati, they're getting two matchups that have been extremely friendly to the running back positions this year.
Yeah, I'm not big into running back matchups. We know that rushing defense is extremely noisy. Not necessarily the most predictive thing in the world. So for me, it's more about the volume than the matchup. I don't think they're in the mix for me this week.
Okay. I am some other sorting here. Any thoughts on guys like Estime, Will Shipley, Michael Carter, Woody Marks, anything in here just too thin with the slate dynamics?
Too thin for cash, and I'm not going to tell you where you could think about playing them because we're talking about cash games here. We're talking about man's game.
Thank you. Please do not say that word. It's I have some skeletons in my closet, Carty. I know plenty of people in the chat know where the bodies are buried, but we've moved on, and this is a new year. It's a new me, and we're playing cash games in week 18. By the way, be sure to send me head-to-head invites here on draftkings.com if you're looking to get that smoke, and specifically if you're looking to play Ashton Genty. All right. Any other thoughts on the running back position? It seems like the little TLDR here is paying up at running back, probably a 2 running back kind of week, unless we get an extreme value that opens up later. Is that a good summary?
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Okay. All right. Let's head over to wide receiver here. And earlier in the show, you were teasing a wide receiver play that the vibe I got was there like a near must play, but just slight issues about the team motivation. Is that correct?
Yep.
Does his name rhyme with Kuka Lakua?
It does. Wow. How did you know?
Well, I know a good play when I see one, Derek. So yeah, talk about the situation with the Rams here.
Yeah, we don't know. The Rams really don't have a whole lot to play for. But they didn't look good last week. McVay came out and said afterwards, oh yeah, all the guys are playing next week. They need to look better. They need to do better before we go into the postseason. So yeah, as of now, I'm expecting him to play, and he projects for 28 points, which is crazy good. Is he going to play the whole game? If they look good in the first half, does McVay say, all right, that's enough, and you guys can take a seat? I don't know.
Here's a question for you, because this is really getting to the ball knowing weeds, but Sean McVay has been running a lot of 3 tight end sets, and we even saw on Monday night, Puka Nacua wasn't even out on the field for some of those sets, which to me is massively concerning when arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league isn't good enough to be the one wide receiver on the field for you. Can you speak on how you're handling that from a projection standpoint and why you would consider someone like that in cash?
Well, so we've seen that all year with the Rams, where they've been super 3 tight end heavy. They've mostly used Devontae Adams as the one receiver on the field. Now with him out, they're using Mumfield, I think. It hasn't been an issue all year for Puka. It's not going to be an issue for me here, because when he is on the field, he's so dominant. And even though he's not going to be on the field 100% of the time, he's still going to have a higher target share than just about everybody in football who is. This year he's run a route on only about 3/4 of the dropbacks. And that's been plenty. So it's not like this is changing. It's not like this is some new thing they started doing last week. Like it's been what they've done all year.
All right. I'm just saying,
already baked into the projection, I guess, is the easiest way to say it.
I know. Yeah. I just, I watched that game on Monday Night Football because I watch all the games, Derek, and he disappeared. And so I just, similar to the Gibbs stuff, I can't be having someone I'm paying $9,000 for disappear when it matters the most to me. You know what I'm saying, dog?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Okay. I'm just saying maybe bring that projection down just like a little smidge, I mean, I guess I'll ask, the fact that Keontae Mumfield's out there in one wide receiver sets, is that not a little bit of an indictment of Puka Nakua's skill?
No, I don't think so. It's just the way the Rams offense works and how that role is. Like that's the way the offense is designed. It's not supposed to be Puka out there. It's supposed to be Devontae Adams, and Mumfield goes in there and plays the Adams stuff.
Sean McVay did have a kid a couple of weeks ago, probably not getting quite as much sleep. Do you think he means to send Puka Nacua out on the field and is accidentally sending Mumfield?
You never know. You never know. That is definitely possible, which maybe he'll get a good night's sleep this week, and maybe it'll be Puka out there. So all the more reason to play him, I think.
All right, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but talk about the other high-end options. I think Amon-Ra and Chase, by your projection, certainly kind of clear the next options there. From a roster construction standpoint, are you going to have to choose between one of these three more or less, or do you see avenues where you could play two of these?
Oh, I think there's plenty of avenues where you can play two of them. Those avenues may include Ashton Genty, but they let you get two of Puka, Amon-Ra, and Jamar Chase. So it's not all bad.
Who would be your preference then between Amon-Ra and Chase?
I think it's Amon-Ra. He projects a little bit better and he's cheaper. So I think it's a pretty clear choice there between those two. Okay.
Yeah. Amon-Ra, the one thing I will mention on him, he has a little Q tag as well. I think he got in a limited practice yesterday, but something to monitor there. Up here at the top of the screen, I mean, we gotta talk about Michael Wilson. I call him Marvin Harrison Sr. He is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't playing, and is basically like Parker Washington the rest of the time. Actually, that's not a fair diss. Parker Washington's been really good, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Michael Wilson, 6,600 here. I mean, he's averaged what? Is it legitimately like 13 to 14 targets in games without Marvin Harrison?
It's something like that. Yeah. It's like a 32% target share or something crazy.
Can you find the money for him, or is this kind of the ETN Harvey situation where it's like, I'd rather just go down or go up?
You can find the money for him, but you can't find the money for him if you're playing two of the top three guys. You can only play one. You can play one and Wilson, which could be viable. You can play one and Wilson, and then you can skip Genty and you can play Bijan and Gibbs. Like there's ways to build lineups like that. So I definitely think Wilson is in the conversation here for a cash guy you can play. He's been obviously fantastic when Marvin Harrison Jr. has not been on the field.
Yep. Yeah, I am going to give him some strong consideration. Let me ask you about a guy that I'm kind of surprised, you're maybe not a little more enthusiastic for, but maybe this kind of trickles down from your lack of Jags enthusiasm here. But the cover boy, a man who gets me just rock hard thinking about getting to play him in cash, and that is Jakobi Meyers. I mean, this is our king. This is our king, Derek. What are we going to do with Jakobi this week?
I don't think it's a Jakobi in cash week. I love Jakobi Meyers. He's on all my season-long teams. I've played him plenty of times in cash. I don't think he makes the cut this week. He's been good with it. Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. I want to play him too. I do, but I don't think he's quite there this week.
Man. Trying to play Ashton Genty out on Jakobi Meyers. Who are you, Derek? Where's the old Derek? The guy who certainly wouldn't have taken on the risk of a rookie running back with a 15-point team total, who would have been lock buttoning Jakobi Meyers in his 5.5 receptions. How about this? Can you give me a little love for Wan'Dale Robinson? He's basically NFC's Jakobi Meyers.
Yeah, I can give you some love for Wan'Dale Robinson. He since Neighbors has gone out, his usage has been insane. They're in a good spot this week against Dallas. Good game script, good opposing defense to be facing. Wandale, you can see projects as like the sixth highest overall guy on the slate, and he's priced nowhere near that. So Wandale is definitely going to be a really good play this week.
All right. That, you've restored some confidence that I haven't fully lost you here. Let's talk some cheapies though here. And I don't know what's going on with my sorting points per dollar.
The sort's not working for some reason.
I know. I bet I just keep clicking and I just keep clicking, just thinking maybe it'll work. As I try to refresh and maybe try again, what are because it does sound like if you're paying up for 2 high-end running backs, if you're jamming in 2 high-end wide receivers, we're going to have to punt it off somewhere. I'm assuming one of those is going to have to be a cheap wide receiver. Who is that guy for you right now?
So there's kind of 3 that I'm looking at right now. 2 of them play for the New Orleans Saints. That would be Kevin Austin Jr. and Dante Pettis.
Okay.
And the other would be Trey Harris for the Chargers. Harris, I imagine, will be more palatable to people because he's actually a good receiver. But New Orleans, I don't mind. Like, it's going to be a really fast-paced game. It's going to be indoors. And they have literally nobody else to throw to. Like, they traded Shaheed a few weeks ago. Olave is out. Mason Tipton is probably out. There's nobody here. So for close to the minimum, if you can get 10 points or 12 points out of them, that might be enough.
Yep. Yeah. Kevin Austin, he had the touchdown last week. He's 3,400. Trey Harris at 3,600. How do you think about, because there's a difference, right? There's the Saints who, haven't really been in contention for a little bit. And then you have a team like the Chargers who are resting. Like, how do you think about that type of profile? Like, if you are having to choose between those two, like a team who's long been out of it or a backup who's only getting to play because the team doesn't care about this game?
He's getting to play because the team doesn't care about this game, but they really like Trey Harris. They've been getting him more work at the expense of some of the other guys in recent weeks. They've talked him up a lot. And so I do think he's going to be, pretty heavily featured in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough call. It's a tough call.
Yes. Jake, Trey Harris plays no fucking shit, brother. Please send me a head-to-head and fuck off. All right, let's see here. Another cheap guys or team, in addition to like the Saints and the Chargers, I think the Eagles guys would maybe be in that conversation too.
They're in the conversation.
John Dotson.
Yeah. Potentially the Packers guys, depending on who we get. Like Savion Williams is 3K, Matthew Golden's 3.8. There are a number of guys in this same type of situation that I think are going to be viable. But ultimately for me, I think the game environment for New Orleans looks the best. So that's why I'm leaning towards them.
And is there anything about that New Orleans game environment that stands out to you? Is it, it's cold outside in other places, it'll be warmer there? Is there anything in particular?
Well, it's indoors, so it's in a dome. There's no wind. That's going to help a lot. It's the fastest paced game of the week, so we should just see tons of volume, but mostly the dome.
Without looking, Derek, I assume this is a little party trick you do. Maybe you did this at a New Year's Eve party. Can you name every Week 18 main slate game that takes place in a dome?
Yeah. So we have this Atlanta New Orleans game. We have the Chargers game, or no, not the Chargers game, the Rams game rather. Rams Arizona. We have, who else am I missing? Oh, the Vegas game, of course, with Chris a lot of cash.
Chris a lot of cash.
And then Houston Indy, I think, is the other one.
Houston Indy, I believe that checks out. That checks out. Do you, when you're projecting the Cowboys this week at MetLife, over under 0.5 torn ACLs on that turf?
Gotta be over.
Okay. Yep. So be sure to jam those guys in your points per ACL torn leagues. So it sounds like, to really pin you down, are you leaning right now with that same question about if you had to lock Chris a lot of cash right now, would you be 2 high-priced wide receivers and a cheapie right now?
I think I would. I'd either be 2 high-priced and a cheapie, or I would be 1 high-priced Michael Wilson or Wandale and a cheapie.
And then if I'm putting this all together, does that mean we are headed to what has long been the meta in 2025 DFS, regardless of which format you're playing, and a 2 tight end week?
It is looking to me like a 2 tight end week. Yeah, I've had plenty of them this year. I know a couple of years ago it would have been unspeakable for a lot of people to play 2 tight ends, but it's been very viable the last couple of years, and this week especially, I think it looks very viable.
Yeah. We'll get to tight end here in a hot second. I guess one other name I wanted to throw out to you, who is looking like a strong points per dollar player, but talk about a guy who's absolutely scary and who has burned people year after year, and that's Jerry Jeudy. Would you potentially consider him this week?
No, I don't think I'm in on Jeudy this week. Okay.
All right. There you have it. Let's move over to the tight end position. And we got to start at the top with Trey McBride, who's been the best tight end in football. Derek Carty, did you know that he has 2 moms?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's completely true. He has 2 moms. The only tight end in the league I know that has 2 moms. I don't know if that would change your projection inputs once you mess with that, but I did want to pass along that
probably not really
information. Okay. All right.
Good for him.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really matter, but okay. Juwan Johnson, is he of interest to you? No, I actually did want to talk about Trey McBride. Is it possible to pay $7,500 for Trey McBride this week?
It's always possible. I think you're building a suboptimal lineup if you do. And this is coming from someone who played Trey McBride like every week for the first 10 weeks of the year until they finally raised his price. But it's at a point now where I think it's prohibitive. I think it's tough to get McBride.
Okay. Yeah, because if you think about McBride, here's my thought exercise, Carty. If we're going 2 tight ends, then we all of a sudden think about Trey McBride as essentially a flex play, in which case we can just benchmark him relative to the wide receivers. And then you start to look at, a 7,500 Trey McBride compared to what? An Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy up there. That's kind of the conversation, right?
That's kind of the conversation. Yeah. So the comparison is okay, like McBride or Amon-Ra St. Brown, or you can save $1,000 or $1,500 and play Michael Wilson or Wandale Robinson instead, who are going to project about as well as McBride does. So that's kind of why I think McBride's not that guy.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at your fantasy points projection for Juwan Johnson, who you have projected as the second best tight end on the slate, and to have him be that much cheaper than Trey McBride. I guess I'll toss around the L word. I don't like to toss it around, especially on a Friday at 1:48 p.m. Eastern. Is Juwan Johnson a lock this week, Carty?
Juwan Johnson, I think, is about as close to a lock as we have this week. Yeah. I mentioned it with the other receivers, Kevin Austin and whoever. It's a great game environment. They have nobody to throw to. You don't even have to take up a wide receiver spot with it. Although if you're going 2 tight end, then it kind of is the same thing. But Juwan Johnson should be the number 1 or number 2 option here for that offense. And he's cheap enough and good enough where he looks like, almost looks like that L word.
All right. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here as well. Looking at these other options, and if it is a 2 tight end week, I can't help but notice the guy who keeps pushing Puka Nacua off the field, Colby Parkinson, up here could be in the conversation. A Michael Mayer. Who are the guys in play to be that second tight end?
Yeah, those 2 would be the top of my list. I think Grant Calcaterra for Philly would also be on that list at his really cheap tag. Parkinson scares me more than the other two because we don't know, is he going to play the whole game? What's going on with the Rams? So I'd probably gravitate more towards one of the other two, Mayer or Calcaterra. Mayer I'd prefer. He's more expensive. But, man, Mayer is so good. I thought he was, the lock of all locks last week, and he came through, and he's still only 3,500. So I really like Mayer.
10 targets last week at 2,500. And I mean, if you were to tell a projection guru like yourself that a 3,500 tight end was going to get 10 targets, that would be a near L word as well.
We'd say the word. We would say the word in that case. Yeah.
I want to bring up a comment from the chat, and I kind of just want us to gather around and pray for them. I think it's someone who's just had their brain rotted by GPP slop. I can't even tell the angle Brendan Goober 7,900 is asking about here, but he says T Ferguson smash play once they bench the starters. So is this individual, Derek, am I reading this correctly? He wants us to play a guy in cash who might get to play in the third or fourth quarter when they bench the starters. Is this what he's considering within this sanctuary of cash gameness right now?
It does sound like that's what he's considering. And I would advise against it, sir. I would advise against it.
I think I'm going to throw up. Jeez. Find God, Brendan. Find God. So two of these. So it sounds like Juwan Johnson and, if you go Juwan Johnson and Michael Mayer, you're looking at what? That's like 7.7K combined from those two. Would it be Mayer, Parkinson, Calcaterra, those kind of the guys that you'd be cycling around Juwan Johnson?
Yeah, they're the ones that I'd be looking at.
Yep. I guess the only other name that's maybe worth mentioning, but I guess the question is so the Chigakonkwo, Dalton Schultz, the Brenton Stranges of the world, it's like, are you getting that much more than these other guys below him to kind of justify that cost in that 3K range?
Yeah, Schultz, I think, is viable, but I'd rather just have Michael Mayer for 300 less. I'd rather have Michael Mayer straight up. That's kind of what I'm looking at with those types of guys. Yeah.
All right. Should we do a ceremonial blitz opto run right now and just see what the opto's looking like?
Sure.
All right, let's see here. Oh, they're going to have me modify my player pool. I hate to show people kind of my process here, but this is what I like to do. I like to scroll down all the way to one of these defenses, and I just change it to 2.35 instead of 2.36. I change it from 4.46 to 4.45. The DraftKings people don't even know that I'm barely changing anything, but from their standards, I've met the qualifications for what I need to do to run this optimizer. What? Modify more players? Are they on to me, Carty?
I think you modified the ownership and not the projection.
I modified the ownership. Oh, thank you. I'm going to change it to 5.31 for the Jets and 4.67. They'll never know what I just did, Derek. Okay. We are building here. So lo and behold, the current Blitz Opto, Chris, a lot of cash, Ashton Genty, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kevin Austin Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Juwan Johnson, Colby Parkinson in Vikings. Holy twins here. Holy twins. We have Gibbs and Amon-Ra, Austin and Juwan Johnson, Parkinson in Nacua. What is your thoughts on this current Blitz Opto right now?
It worries me with the Rams guys, not knowing whether they're going to play or not. Genty obviously worries me, but I am leaning towards playing him.
Worry more. Worry more, Derek.
You might be talking me off him.
Good. I want us both to be rich, Derek. I want us both to be rich beyond our wildest imagination, and we cannot do that if we're taking 2 steps back with Ashton Genty and cash this week. Looking at some other variations on it, here's a Michael Mayer swap for Colby Parkinson. There is, what's the swap on this one? Oh, just a defensive swap. So Eagles instead of Vikings. Here's our first Michael Wilson lineup that comes off of Amon-Ra. It then goes down to Grant Calcaterra. So that could be a potential thing mitigating some of that Rams risk you were discussing as well.
and there's no Genti. You get up to
Ooh, you're right. I'm going to read this one off because this is speaking to me right now. Chris, a lot of cash, Gibbs, Bijan, Kevin Austin, Michael Wilson, Puka, Jawan Johnson, Ground Calcaterra, Vikings defense. We haven't talked defense yet, so let's hit on that here as well while we look at these optimals. Obviously, Vikings, Eagles showed up here. Are those the two main ones for you?
Honestly, I haven't even looked at defense. Defense is whatever fits with whatever else I'm doing. That's what I'll play at defense usually.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. It's very fair. Let's see here. The other kind of optimal, it is interesting to see there is like a Wan'Dale Robinson here. This one has 3 Saints in cash. I'm guessing, is that a bridge too far? Because I saw some lineups this year in cash. I saw the Cash Bros, Derek. They were turning into tournament bros. They were rolling out Jacoby Brissett triple stacks in cash. I mean, do you want to speak on behalf of our people for what they were doing earlier this year?
No, it was viable to go triple stacks in cash when that first week, especially when Marvin Harrison was out and they were so cheap. It was fine. I think 3 Saints this week is too much for me.
Oh my goodness, I might have just found the one, Derek. Scroll down to number 8 here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the star here. Max Brosmer, 4,200 versus Green Bay. Do you have anything else? I would just like to hear you wax poetically about Max Brosmer. I mean, Dome Boner here at home, Minnesota Dome. All this guy does is win. Packers have a 13.5 point team total. Minnesota is very solid, 22, which is higher than Chris a lot of cash is, by the way. Max Brosmer, man. I might have to fucking show up with Max Brosmer in cash, Derek.
I wouldn't fault you for doing it. It is very viable to play him in cash this week. He's 4,200. And like you said, a pretty healthy team total for a guy who's that cheap.
Yep. It's really interesting that all of the talking heads on Twitter, the little anonymous egg avatars, all want to talk shit about Max Brosmer, but the people with skin in the game, the sports books, the people who are dealing with hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, they're the ones that say Max Brosmer is a good play. Makes you think, doesn't it, Derek?
It makes you think, that's for sure. Call me crazy, but the egg avatars, they're not really the most respectable to me. They're not who I'm putting my faith in.
What are your mentions like these days, Derek? What are they like?
Oh, it's about what you would think. It's some questions mixed with a lot of people telling me that math is stupid or projections are stupid or Ashton Genty's bad. I mean, come on, who really thinks Ashton Genty?
Derek, you had me until the end. That's a peer. That's a fellow titan of industry trying to help you out here. That's all that is. What's your go-to? Do you engage? Do you feed the trolls? Do you block them? Do you mute them? What's the official Derek Carty playbook?
Depends what kind of mood I'm in. I'll usually feed the trolls a little bit.
Okay. Let's see here. Are there any situations between now and Sunday that you think could truly flip the cash slate on its head? Is there anything you'd be monitoring in that regard?
Yeah. So obviously the Rams stuff, if we hear that they're going to rest their guys, I think that would flip the slate on its head because Puka becomes irrelevant. Devon Achane being out, potentially for Jalen Wright could have that effect. Those would be the two main ones.
If we get the slate dynamics where maybe one of those cheap running backs really opens up and we still feel good about 2 tight end, Gibbs or Bijan, who are you choosing?
I think if I'm forced to choose now, I'm choosing Gibbs, but it's not like a firm, like really, okay. It's not like I think he's definitely the right play. It's just kind of, I have to pick one of the two.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I would say compared to previous years, the high-end options just feel weaker to me than they historically have. I feel like we had the Justin Jefferson last year. We've had these guys where it's just like everything lines up, the matchup, the motivation, all of that. It feels a little shakier this year to me, Carty.
it does feel a little shakier. That's kind of why I said at the beginning of the show, like, this doesn't feel like a prove it week. It doesn't, I don't think we have those guys that are just automatic locks, really. It's there are some moving pieces that you have to figure out.
What would you say for, for me, I started building my shell for this week, I don't know, 4.5 months ago. But for the common man, or maybe even a GPP bro, what is the balance between fiddling with your shell early in the week, getting a lay of the land, getting flexible with different build types, but also not getting anchored to something that could get flipped on its head at Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern? How do you balance that?
You just have to have the right mentality. You just have to realize, okay, this is what it is right now. But if something happens, I need to be ready to pivot. I need to be okay with moving off of what I like right now. And you just have to have the mental fortitude to do that.
Who is the cash game player you respect the most in the space?
The cash game king, for sure. That's why I agreed to come on the show, because, I mean, who else could it possibly be?
That's right. Correct answer. You passed that test. And Derek, I already feel like we've shared too much. A lot of your content is behind a paywall for a reason. You do the weekly show, you got the Blitz Optimal, and I kind of feel sick to my stomach that we gave the people this good of information without even having to pay for it. Should we be disgusted in ourselves for this?
We really probably should. We gave them way too much. We kind of spoon fed them how to win in cash games this week. So, I guess you guys are welcome.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy. A lot of these guys can't even pronounce Chris a lot of cash, and yet they now know the play. They know the play
now. And
they do. East of Ethan, what's your DK username again? It's RevertZtop, RevertZeetop. Derek Carty, please say your username, spell it, and use it in a sentence as well. Country of origin, please, too.
Derek Carty, DerekCarty in a sentence. Derek Carty is a great cash game player, but not as good as the cash game king. And country of origin is the United States.
Amen, brother. Amen. American made, just like this program. We appreciate all of you guys watching. Here's the deal for the rest of my programming schedule this weekend. Immediately following this, I'm going to go and cover the Underdog cash slate. Underdog has provided me, Derek, with my own contest. It's the double up contest. They're 135 max, half the entries get their money back. You can join me in those streets. And then tomorrow evening, I'm having Sammy Reed from the Gillcast. He's going to be on After Dark. Sammy Reed, interesting cash game player. He likes making some of these IKB moves. He shows up with some of these alpha plays. I'm going to try to pick his brain, see what he's cooking up for week 18. And then Sunday, for YouTube members, I am going to have the usual cram, except it is a cash game cram only. We'll be live as inactives roll in, and I will be here to guide us through lock and what we need to do to build the highest floor possible cash game lineups here. But Derek, appreciate you as always. Everybody needs to go check out the Blitz, get that pass, check out the projections as Derek updates them over the weekend. Any final words here, Derek?
That's it. Good luck. You guys are welcome. Cash Game King gave you everything you need.
Yep. Some people say don't play cash in week 18. We're going to stuff those guys in a locker this week. We'll see you.